Hello, everybody. My name is Terry Jenkins. I'm the Global Head of Training and Certification at Arista. Kind of my pleasure today to be walking you guys through our expert certifications. We call these out as ACE Level 6 and ACE Level 7. So I took a few minutes to give you an idea of what we are trying to capture. In our mindsets and what we see with our customers every day, the lead engineers, the top-level engineers and architects that are running most of the projects, doing the major design builds, managing the project plans for implementation and such, coming up with automation schemas, things like this, driving the next 5, 10, 15 years within the customers are typically created with guys that are dealing with multiple aspects of this. Early in the customer conversations, we're heavy in design and architecture. They're validating the design and best practices that we put across. They're right-fitting that to their environments. They need to be able to understand the architectures, the protocols, the technologies that make up our best practices and our recommended solutions. And then they have to interpret those and embed those into the way that their particular corporation is using them. So we feel if we're going to capture and create an expert certification and validate these aspects of how they approach adding a new technology to a network, at that level, we feel that you need to know all those pieces. This is somewhere we differ very, very far from most of our competitors, what the industry has known as expert certifications for many years. And that is, it's all about implementation. It's all about troubleshooting. It's all about typing in the keyboard. And while we think those things are very, very important, we think that you should know when to use the protocol and when not to use the protocol and how to answer the business solution, not just the technical acumen of remembering the right number of commands for BGP, for example. So the way we've approached this in our ACE program was we start with level 6. Level 6 is basically handling those design and architecture type conversations. We are doing that in the form of the way that we see it with most of our customers as a request for a proposal, an RFP. So we're designing that bit of the evaluation around whether or not you can move through those decisions, choose the right protocols, pick the right fit for your company, connect those dots between business problem and technical solution, and going that way. Now, once you progress that, just like with any normal customer project, the next step of that is going to be, to build, deploy, troubleshoot, optimize, automate. And most of these things are happening not necessarily in the keyboard anymore on CLI. It may be with your mouse and a GUI now. It may be with an automation script. So those are the things that will represent more in level 7 with a very exhaustive hands-on lab that tests those aspects. Together, we believe that these two, if you can pass level 7, that means you had to have passed level 6. We do have that as a prerequisite. Let's drill in a little bit. So ACE level 6, like I said, design and architecture focused. The way we implement the exam is we will give you an RFP scenario. Basically, you will have 14 days once you receive that scenario from us to submit questions, because we want to replicate that real-world relevant process that happens every day. So you'll be able to query back questions to us. Depending on your questions, you may or may not receive additional information. That additional information is part of your score. As we're coming up with your overall grade, we are going to grade whether or not you had all the information available to you. Did you ask the right questions? Because as an architect, this is part of your job to be able to ask those questions and make sure you're pulling that information out. Overall, we give you 30 days from the time that we give you the scenario to the time we expect you to turn in the solution. The first 14 days is for asking questions. The second 14 days of that is roughly for you just to crank away and create the solution. At the end of the second 14 days or your month block of time, you will have a very specific deadline. There is no extensions on it. If you do not turn it in by that day, then you fail that attempt and you'll have to come back and reattempt the exam at another time. When you submit the submission at the end of that, we are going to ask you to create a package. We're not overly picky. We ask you to try to use Google or Microsoft type products like Word or PowerPoint or Google Docs or Sheets or whatever like that, a format that's easy for us to be able to accept. You could draw your diagrams in PowerPoint. You can draw them in some other tool and copy them in PowerPoint, copy them in Word, whatever works for you. We're not going to grade you on what your presentation style is. We're not going to grade you on your English and grammar and things like this. We're not going to grade you on how pretty your PowerPoint was. Ultimately, we need you to give us your solution in a format at the end of that period so that we can take time to review it. So first 14 days, question and response time. Second 14 days, you do the work. And then once you submit it, we have 14 days that we can go back and grade. The way that we do the grading on this is during that 14-day period, we have already pre-assigned you a board. We've already pre-assigned you a board date. Typically, we do this first, and then we work backwards from that. We will give you your scenario 45 days from that date, and that makes up the 3 14-day windows. During that 45 days, you have 30 days to create your solution. We got 14 days for our board to get together, look through your solution, make sure it's complete, things like this. If you're missing major parts or you didn't complete it, then we may finalize your grade at that point and just tell you it's a fail and you'll have to come back again. Assuming that you have all your pieces together, you got a decent solution, we can understand what it is, then after that 14-day period, we've kind of collected our questions and our data. We meet with you on the board. The board is typically 3 hours long. It's not hard and fast, but we kind of limit it to 3 hours. The first hour and a half, you can say the first block of that is your chance to present your solution to us. We don't care what order you go in. We don't care how you do it. If you have a normal template you use with your company every day, feel free to use that. But basically during that hour and a half, you're guiding us through and convincing us that your solution answers the RFP. We will then take the second half of that and we will come at you with our questions and answers, because the part of that we're simulating in the exam is just like you have time to create your solution when you're doing this for real. You're also going to have to come and present your solution to maybe a customer board or something along that lines, and let the managers and the architects and the engineers and the operations people and all these people are in that meeting to hear your solution. You're basically pitching it to them, and of course they're going to have questions that they want to answer and they want to see how you're answering it. So we're going to simulate that piece. At the same time, we're also going to be playing proctors. The board will be made up of senior players off of the Arista training team. We may have SMEs from Arista that are doing this every day, and we will have a certain number of people that are already level 7 certified that will be sitting on that as well because they've experienced it and they're part of that. In addition to asking customer type questions to you, we're probably going to ask you questions of why did you choose that protocol instead of this protocol? What was your thinking on it? And we're not necessarily going to grade you on did you pick BGP because we would have picked BGP, maybe you picked ISIS. That's okay. We want to understand why you picked ISIS. Once that's done, the board will do a final grade. We're going to consider the questions you asked. We're going to consider the package you submitted. And then we're going to consider the actual presentation and the answers that you did during the board. At that point, we will decide on your grade. It is pass or fail. We do things a little different here. So the first time you attempt level 6, it is $750. If you fail for some reason and you have to come back and do it again, then we do $500 for your second, third, or however many times it takes you. This work can all be done. That 30 days that you have the work, that can all be done from wherever you want. We strongly encourage you to leverage any resources. All of our exams we call open book. We encourage you to talk to people. We encourage you to read all kinds of documentation. Ultimately, we are not going to ask you questions that are outside our ACE level 1 through 5 courses in our training. There are no trick questions. There are no secret stuff. We simply want to know that you can take and you've consumed the training that we've given, our recommended practices, and now you're turning around and delivering those over to the customer. So that's ACE level 6. With ACE level 7, again, trying to keep it realistic to what is needed today by these lead architects, we are basically going to ask you to simulate what is 3 change windows, 3 production change windows. One of them you will be deploying and optimizing a data center infrastructure. The second part, you will come in and do a campus-focused setup. And the third part of it is we will ask you to go in and deploy an automation scheme to roll out part of the network. Each part gets a dedicated 8-hour window. We have some people that might take a little closer to the 8 hours. Some people may be done in 3 or 4 hours. You finish that window, we grade that. If you pass, the following week, you come and do the second part. You pass that, the following week, you come back and do the third part. So think of it like 3 Fridays in a row, kind of simulating that real world environment. You must pass all 3 parts in order to get your ACE level 7. On the third part, where it's automation focused, we will not allow you to type in CLI. Everything needs to be pushed out either with a standalone Ansible or Python, or you can use Ansible or Python with CloudVision. Any of those mechanisms work, but we will be monitoring CLI, and we want to make sure that you know this automation focus. As you go through on the costing of this, it is $1,500 to take the ACE Level 7. That's roughly, it breaks down to $500 per part. We don't penalize you totally because, again, like we said with ACE Level 6, the second time, it's a little cheaper. What we're trying to achieve here is that we understand that taking exams is stressful. There's a lot of scenarios that go, in your head while you're going through this. Anything can go wrong. It's going to be common for people to come back and take it a second or third time because these are just difficult concepts, and we're asking that you be at a very high level. So you shouldn't be penalized just because it's going to take you a minute to kind of get through the process. So the way we do it, just like I said, ACE Level 6, first time $750, second time is $500. With Level 7, it's $1,500, $500 for each part. Let's say you come in and you fail Part 1. Okay, well, you can come back and you can take Part 1 again. You've already paid $1,500, so you burned $500. You can use the second $500 to take Part 1 again. Let's say you pass at that point. Well, now you can use your last $500 to pay for Part 2. Pass that, okay, now you owe us $500 to take Part 3. So it eases the burden of you a little bit so that you're not doing it 1,500 times every time you fail. The format of ACE Level 7 is completely lab focused, so none of the design work that you did in Level 6 is necessarily applicable to Level 7, where you're not building what you designed in Level 6. We're just going to give you a scenario. The design has already been done. Now it's your job to kind of implement that scenario. Grading on Level 7 is pass or fail. The way we look at it is you're building a network. Would you turn it on Monday, or do you need to back out of your change because it's not functioning? So that's the same criteria we use as pass or fail. We have mechanisms to flag certain things that are pretty common with cheating. So we look at these things. Your proctor team will examine the entire solution. At the end of the day, all of our exams, we call them operational readiness evaluations. What we are trying to tell your employers that if you pass Level 7, you absolutely should be in charge of the next change window. You're a lead. Just like we said, Level 6, you can use any resources available to you. Level 7, you can too. You take the ACE Level 7 exam from anywhere you want. It's conducted over a Zoom session with us. You will have video on. You'll be on the Zoom. If you want to Google something, go for it. You want to have the EVB and design guide with you, or you want to have your lab notes from when you did the course. All of these things are okay. The thing that we're simulating there is engineers that show up to a major production change and they're not prepared shouldn't be in charge of the windows. So we want you to come prepared. With both of these, we have a special role inside our training team called a concierge. As you sign up for either one of these exams, you're automatically going to get that person assigned to you. They're going to kind of come along your side and try to help you go through the process as simple as possible. Our goal is not to help you pass. Our goal is just to try to make it as least stressful as possible. If you pass either one of these, we do a joint number on this. This is a lifetime number. Once you earn it, it is yours forever, whether or not you're active or not. We thought we'd have a little fun with this as well, so you can see we use a MAC address format. The beginning part of this ACE will stay. The 7, you will either have a 6 or 7 there. If you started Level 6, as you would in the program, yours will say ACE 6. Later on, if you come back and take Level 7, pass it, the 6 simply changes to 7, but your number at the end stays the same. The year earned will always be yours. That would be the year that you first took it. So if you take ACE Level 6 in 2023, come back and take ACE Level 7 in 2024, yours will say ACE 723, because that's when you passed Level 6 and were first expert. We'll have 2 A's for active, 2 F's for expired, just to let you know. I mean, we all know that people at this level, you're going to move on. What's your next steps? You're going to be in management. You haven't typed commands in a long time. It doesn't make sense for you to keep maintaining it. It'll simply go in expired, but you're welcome to continue to show that because this is accomplishment. This is a critical point in your career. It is your number. You earned it. And the last digits obviously are your number from 1 to 65,000 and some change. It's all in hexadecimal, so we'll have a little fun with that. Okay, everybody, I appreciate you taking the time to go through this. I encourage everybody to come at this. Give your best shot on ACE Level 6 or ACE Level 7. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to your account team, and they can get in contact with the training team. Reach out to us directly. Reach out to SEM Pros, any of us that can help you out.